family, running, playing, laughing, sharing, this fickle beast was discovered in the heart of the North American continent in the middle of the 20th century. Lithe and agile, the markings of an American family are striking. A father, mother, son, and daughter, a two-story house on a tree-lined street, a radio, a car, a television. As the children grow older, they will find mates and eventually leave the nest, only to carry out the ritual of American family in a location 4 nests away from their parents. In the natural habitat, the American family has few predators, yet there is the fear the American family is already in danger of extinction. In recent years, scientists have discovered a myriad of behavioral mutations within this once widely homogeneous group of animals. Some of the more common mutations appear harmless at first. Mothers must leave the nest in search of money alongside the father. Fathers and mothers may have 2 to 3 cocktails with dinner or more. Families stop their daily recounting of their activities. But other mutations carry more serious consequences for the species. Fathers will leave the nest and never return, so that the mothers must search for money and the children must tend to themselves and their own meals. The mother or father will leave the nest in search of other families altogether. By far, the most disturbing mutations have shown American families that are not only carnivorous, but also cannibalistic, devouring not only the other American families, but even themselves. The members within their own nests. Some scientists theorize that this is the first time in history that a species is changing rapidly enough for us to witness the evolution of that species. Though too early to define, this new American family will certainly be the species that determines the legacy of the American family as we know it. Name is Anderson, from my dad's grandpa, who was Swedish, 100%.
Mine is Jackson, which is an English name, generally.
Harvey, having many meanings, most of them having to do with war. Deshpande, Indian. It means warrior and countryman. Anjali, meaning offering or giving, makes me the giving warrior.
My last name's Nelson. We're just white.
I will say that I think Jackson is a good last name.
Keller, German.
Streifel, also German.
Schivener, you guessed it, German. And it's rarely pronounced correctly.
My last name's Cody, and I'm related to Buffalo Bill.
There's something sharp and sexy about it phonetically. Jackson.
Actually, I'm not really related to Buffalo Bill. My grandpa just lied to me.
Keller derives from the term wine cellar master, and let me tell you, we took mask to the new extreme.
I'm not actually a blood relative of anyone with the name Streifel because my dad was adopted.
St. John is Irish Catholic. That being the case, I was not raised Catholic. Or Irish.
Then I married a Nakarni, fisherman priest. In my culture, if you are a woman, marriage changes your first and middle name, basically making you a different person.
Partly, I believe, has something to do with beer.
Then I divorced and later married a Hutchinson. Now my last name means one who lives on a hilltop or takes care of rabbits.
Whenever I'm hiking in a forest, I get the urge to go off trail and run through the undergrowth chasing some invisible specter of a deer.
My last name is Burger. I called my dad to ask him where the name came from, but he has no idea because the only person who might have known is already dead.
Every Shiviner mentioned on the internet is from my family. We are the only Shiviner family in the world, according to Google.
Jackson, if I ever get married, I have no intention of dropping that name.
I asked my mother about her side of the family. Until 1965, there was a quota on how many Koreans could enter America. By 1974, there was a wait list. There was nothing in Korea, just a little shack with a leaky roof. I remember my mom getting a loan to buy a suitcase. I imagined that the American sidewalks would be shiny and blind you because they would be covered in gold. Moving America the year I turned 12. Our first drive to our apartment, we drove past junkyards. I was devastated. It was dirty and run down. Korea is a very clean place. But once we got to the apartment, a stove, running water, a couch, it was the first time I had seen a toilet. Every other time I peed, it was in a hole in the ground. We got here end of August and then went to school. My first day, my aunt wrote me a piece of paper that said, "I cannot speak English." Everyone smelled different. It's called Hindongi Namse, white people smell. I remember the first white boy I had a crush on in school. He was the most blonde and blue-eyed boy, so handsome. Some girls in the neighborhood blabbed to him. He said, "Yeah, right, like I would ever with that yellow chink." Daddy and I never saw the difference between us. And yet, when I choose to marry your father, I had to leave the Korean church, and I was chastised because I was the first one to marry outside of my race in the entire church. Your father treats me with respect. He thanks me for cooking him a meal every night. I am treated with dignity. I am not a second-class citizen. When you told me that Kevin made you question your worth as a person because he saw only your race, I cried for you. For you to acknowledge it today, it set us back 20 years, and I am so glad it didn't work out between you two. I already suffered for you. I already paid the price for you. I already paved the road for you. Even though he was a nice fellow.
So how did you guys meet? Mom, you go first.
So, I went with my friend Dawn to pick up your father, or to pick up her father, Phil, at your grandpa's house. When I was there, your father came around the corner and
I was just getting out of the shower and I strutted out to the living room.
howled. Please, no you didn't.
Yes, I did. I strutted everywhere in those days.
Dad, let Mom talk. Okay.
Man, you got a lot of rules.
So anyway, I don't know why, but I curtsied when Dawn introduced us. I curtsied.
She was so in awe with my physique, she didn't know what to do. Do you remember what you were wearing that day?
No.
White pants and a yellow top, and, might I add, your ass looked mighty fine in those pants.
I was not wearing white pants.
Yes, you were. Those pants are ingrained in my memory.
Then you went on a date?
Yes, we went on a double date.
No, we saw each other before our double date at Michelle's birthday party. We didn't talk, but that night after the party, Grandpa pulled me aside and said, "Johnny, you see the way that little blonde was looking at you? She's got stars in her eyes."
No, I didn't.
And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah. But Dawn told me that your mom didn't like me."
Yeah, I didn't like it. So that was it.
But what happened next?
Dawn's birthday party. We were talking in the house and I said, "I have my car here. You want to see it? And then went outside, sat on the hood of my car, and talked for the rest of the night. We didn't make out or anything, but we slow danced.
Was there any music?
It wasn't really romantic or anything.
Not really romantic, my ass. It was very romantic. Dancing under the stars. There wasn't any music, but I may have been humming something. And then I asked her out again.
We went to see Heaven Can Wait in Persephone and then went to IHOP.
We weren't in Persephone. We were in Union.
No, we were definitely in Persephone because the IHOP was right there.
No, you are wrong. I took 4 girls to see Heaven Can Wait in Union, and you were the last one. Trust me, I know it was Union.
Fine, but you're wrong.
And then that night, we had our first romantic kiss outside your mom's house. I was standing on the driveway, and she was standing on the first step of the stoop.
No, we were inside.
Maybe we continued there, but we started outside. How could we have been nose to nose if we weren't standing on different levels?
Well, I still think we were inside. And the next day,
And that was it.
and that was it. We were in love.
Looking back,
I suppose 2 years wasn't that long.
it seemed like forever at the time.
Mike and I decided it was time. We were ready for it to happen right away, so imagine our disappointment when months came and went and
No luck.
We went to the doctor to see what the holdup might be. Dad was tested and he was fine. I was tested and I specifically remember the doctor calling for
More traction on the uterus.
during the test. I also had some nausea from the injected dye, but that was okay. I was highly motivated to do whatever it took. Sterile cell pain.
Took my endometriosis when I was ovulating. Practically intrauterine.
That was the first surgery I had ever had. I remember being told to think of a pleasant scene before going under, and I pictured Haystack Rock. After the surgery, we were sure all systems were go. But we were wrong.
No luck.
Still no luck.
Tests.
More temperature taking.
We were getting fairly discouraged. It was going on 2 years, and we were starting to think maybe about adoption as a possibility. I went to the doctor to discuss what the next step would be with fertility treatments, such as in vitro fertilization. But as it turns out, while I was talking to the doctor, I was pregnant and didn't even know it.
My earliest memory of my family is my dad teaching me how to hold and hit a wiffle ball with a bat. I was 2. I remember my dad showing me how to hold my hands and where to stand.
My earliest memories of drawing rainbows all over my bunk bed that my grandfather had made for my mother when she was a kid. It was the first time I ever heard her scream.
My earliest memory of my family is listening to Sting tapes and dancing with my mom in our old house in Chanhassen, Minnesota.
Right in my Grandpa Roscoe's yellow farm pickup truck with my dad on the passenger side. I sat in the middle and had to be careful of getting in the way of the stick shift on the floorboard of the truck. I remember Grandpa Roscoe smoking Carlton lowest tar and nicotine cigarettes and looking at his corn.
Mine is doing a karate show with my brother after a big friends and family feast. We had dressed up in these tiny karate gis, and my brother's butt hung out because his was too small for him.
My earliest memory is the day my brother was born.
I remember the day my younger sister was
It
born.
was the birth of my brother.
I was sitting in the living room watching Sesame Street. It was a sketch about a girl who drew a picture of a little white puppy and walked him and gave him a treat.
It was the Christmas season, and my parents were taking me to Toys R Us to do some shopping. My mom's water broke as we walked in the door.
We were meeting my mom and my brother at the hospital.
I was too little to be able to see over the walls of the bassinet, and I asked my mom to lift me up. My dad said Mom needed to rest, but my mom, who had just given birth, said, "No, it's okay," and lifted me up to see my brother for the first time.
I wanted a puppy, not a sister.
And we never did get to go shopping.
I'm standing on the porch in my Christmas dress with my older sister and Grandma Russell, posing for a picture of my mom. Dad and Papa are standing in the front yard taking a picture, dressed in their Christmas best, trying to get me to smile, or stop hiding behind my grandmother's leg, or look at the camera and be normal.
When I was 4, I had a dream. There was a fire in the basement of our house, and I was running back and forth with small cups of water trying to put it out. My family was in the yard with the fire.
When I sat in front of the fireplace with my dad and I said I dreamt of a great big fire, he absentmindedly said, "Oh," and I said, "Yes, one that burns our whole house never say that ever again. And I didn't.
It was my birthday and I was blindfolded. My parents led me out into the front yard and whisked off the blindfold, and right there, stuck between two branches of our tree, was a brand new, shiny red tricycle.
In the Keller family, we make sausage. There are currently 3 generations that help in the process. Grandfathers get the meat and add the water to it. The grandmothers add the seasonings and make coffee. The grandsons mix the raw meat, then it gets doled out into sizes by the dads. And if it is not bulk, then it is put into casings by the moms. And the granddaughters put the meat in packaging, and the grandkids tape and label each of the products. It is the Keller sausage making tradition.
And lights go off, Pamela.
I started lying to him. To both of them. I wasn't there. I mean, I was physically there, but mentally I wasn't. Someone had turned off the lights and had cranked up some form of screamo music in my mind. Lying because the primal reaction to protect myself from getting hurt. And the most hurtful part is that no one can ever understand that place unless you have been there. You want somebody to wring it out of you. Wring you so hard that you feel empty and flaccid, like a dishwashing cloth. Because you were just so exhausted everywhere. During those years, my dad would be outraged if I told him I would try to go to school and then I couldn't. And so he would start shouting, and all the lights went out, and the music started.
I never brought a boyfriend home to meet my family, and it's probably going to be really awkward when I do. My dad and stepmom are super Christian, so I have no idea how that will work. My mom and sisters are very supportive of me, but I don't think any of them have ever been around 2 gay people in a relationship before. I also have a really big family with really big personalities, but this year I made a decision. Mark Andrews is going to be my date for Thanksgiving.
And lights will fade or come down a little bit.
Last fall, while working on this show, I realized that it's odd to be an American and not be super close to your cousins. Then suddenly, an opportunity to get to know my cousins on my dad's side came up. Cousin Heather's Tennessee Whip. I learned a lot about my family and where my dad came from and yada yada yada. But ultimately, this is the biggest lesson that I learned from my adventure into extended family life. This is a complete woman. This is an example of a woman who does not see the value of marriage, particularly at a young age, or, according to Cousin Michael, an incomplete woman. Cousin Michael is a priest, and he did the ceremony for his sister, my other cousin, and he cornered me at a table and asked,
Why don't you want to get married? There's tax breaks and the safety of commitment.
well, I don't want to get married to save money. That seems pretty disrespectful. I already have the safety of commitment, but we just call that trust. I believe premarital sex is a necessity, and I don't see myself financially able to purchase a home or raise a child anytime soon, so why would I need to get married? I'm in love with a wonderful man. I've been with him for 4 years, and I'm happy and supported. That's enough for me. I feel like a complete woman. Does she feel like a complete woman?
And the lights would fade out, but probably. I've just started thinking about my future family. I think I want kids. I don't know.
Will your child be able to solve life's problems? Are you giving your little boy or girl the full advantages of upbringing that will fit him in every way to meet life? Did you know that child psychologists have discovered hundreds of new things about children? America's greatest child psychologist, Dr. John Watson, has set these discoveries down in readable, practical form.
Yeah, but kids can be real assholes. I mean, when I think of all the hell I put my parents through.
Once, I slapped my mother.
I broke his arm.
Mom, I have no idea where I am.
It burned to the ground.
I just don't know.
I had said fuck. The context being, I fucking hated here. Mom slapped me hard on the cheek, and I slapped her back.
When I was 6, my little brother David was 4. He was playing. He was singing and dancing on top of this stool, which annoyed me. I warned him, if you keep singing, I'm going to pull that stool right out from under you.
One night in high school, I broke one of my mom's first rules. Don't get in a car with strangers. I was joyriding with a car full of hot girls. Yes, they were strangers, but they were hot.
When we pulled up to the house, fire engines were everywhere. I'll never forget those red lights and realization. Oh shit, did we?
Dr. Watson's book is the step towards understanding your children better. In his book, Dr. Watson explains the only 2 things that new babies are afraid of. What happens to your child when you say, don't? What to do if your child is afraid of the dark? The effects of too much coddling.
Slap! It was mortifying for both of us. She looked at me as if she didn't know me. I didn't even know myself.
My brother kept singing. I stayed true to my word. The next thing I knew, my brother was on the floor crying, and my mother was hovering over him, furious with me.
I was in the car maybe 10 minutes when my cell phone rang. It was my mom. Hello?
Where are you, Sam?
I have no idea.
Well, who are you with?
Mom, I have no idea.
Are you in a car? Who is driving the car, Samuel?
Mom, I have no idea.
Pull over at the next landmark. I'll come pick you up.
My brother Phil and I had been using the roof of our farm's doghouse as a launching pad for our fireworks.
I never said fuck in front of my mother again.
How to act when your child disobeys. How to overcome rage and temper tantrums. What, when, and how to tell your child about sex. For your child's sake, read Psychological Care of Infant and Child by John B. Watson, author of Behaviorism, copyright 1928, Brentano's Incorporated.
I had broken his little arm.
It was 3:30 in the morning. I convinced the stranger girls to drop me off at the Mall of America so my mom could pick me up.
She never looked at me the same way again.
I broke my little brother's arm.
Mom was ready with a week's worth of grounding.
I think that was the first time I was grounded for life.
Dr. Watson will tell you what, when, and how to tell your child about sex.
Dear Mom and Dad, I will never actually tell you how much I love sex. It makes me feel like a woman. I feel responsible. I feel pleasure. I feel true love, but I also feel true love with myself. I'm learning to love myself. I often hate who I am. Sex helps me break all of the boundaries I have set for myself. Sex is the best choice I have ever made for myself because I made the choice. Mom and Dad, I will never tell you how much I fucking love sex. Love always. Me.
Yeah, I'll keep thinking about this whole having kids thing.